Hello my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, welcome to my latest movie review where today I continue my reviews of the Mission Impossible franchise with the 6th entry in the series, Mission Impossible Fallout, released in 2018, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who directed the previous movie, Rogue Nation. Ethan Hunt and his IMF team, along with some familiar allies, race against time after a mission gone wrong. To add to that, the plot of this film is that everybody is going after this plutonium, and Ethan Hunt gets embroiled in a deal with the CIA and MI6 in which MI6 want to extract Solomon Lane, the leader of the syndicate from the previous movie. And in order to do this, Ethan has to pretend to be someone called John Lark, and in order to get the plutonium back, he has to give up Solomon Lane. There's a bit more to it than that. It goes on from there. There is a character called Walker, who may have ulterior motives. And as well, we have the return of Ilsa, played by Rebecca Ferguson, who is out to get her freedom. She has to bring Solomon Lane back to MI6, and she has to kill him in order to gain her freedom. That's about as much as I can explain because it gets a little more complicated from there. Mission Impossible Fallout. Well, we're 6 movies in now, and you think by this point the franchise had officially run out of steam, exhausted, nowhere else to go, done, bury it under the rug. Actually, this is quite a good movie. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's the best installment of the series, but this is a very slick, very solid entry into the series, and I think greatly improves over its predecessor. Mission Impossible Fallout is a great action movie. The action of this film is just terrific. It's gritty, it's hard-hitting. It's probably the grittiest action of the series, and it's very clean, very slickly choreographed, and brutal in some areas. You really feel the sense of brutality. You know, it's such a spectacle, this film, it really is. The finale itself is an incredible amalgamation of different sequences. You know, Ilsa and Benji fighting Solomon Lane, Ethan chasing down Walker in the helicopter on the cliffs. You know, that's incredible. We also have a road chase as well, which is excellent. There's a chase sequence through London. There's also a halo jump. There's also a bathroom fight. This movie is action-packed, and that's what you watch it for. It's an entertaining action thrill ride. The story is good. I think the story's fine for this one. It's a conventional plot. It's what you would expect from this type of film. I do feel like at times the plot gets a tad bit convoluted. It gets a little bit tied up in terms of what the actual plan is to trade Solomon Lane for the plutonium. It gets a little confusing at times because it keeps changing a lot. So you do have to pay attention. It's a little bit hard to keep up on certain occasions. But this movie really did entertain me from beginning to end, and it was a much slicker movie than Rogue Nation, which is weird because this movie is longer. I do think that this movie is perhaps a tad bit too long. It does feel a little bit elongated at points, and halfway through I was just thinking, okay, we should really be moving on from this. It's kind of dragging quite a bit. Certainly the first half of the movie drags quite a lot. The second half picks up much more. This is impeccably shot. I think this is one of the most well shot installments of the franchise, and the cinematography is beautiful. Christopher McQuarrie really put a lot of effort into this, and they really cared about what they were making, and it definitely shows. So I think his direction is definitely a step up from Rogue Nation. As for the cast, well, Tom Cruise, I can't fault the guy. He is getting older, he's showing his age, and I think much like the franchise, it's getting older and it's getting on, and they're having to try to find new ways to reinvent the series. I don't think this really reinvents the series. It's a good installment and it's very solid for what it does, but I wouldn't say that this movie provides anything groundbreaking other than the spectacle. And I think Tom does his usual shtick, and he does it really, really well. But I don't feel like there's anything new really for the character of Ethan Hunt. If anything, it's quite a nostalgic movie for him, kind of things from the past coming back. But Tom gives everything to this role, and he loves it. He clearly loves doing all these stunts. He's an adrenaline junkie, and that's proven. And the helicopter sequence at the end is just like, whoa. That sequence had me going, ooh, like I was again on the edge of my seat, hoping that he was going to make it out alive. Henry Cavill is in this film as well, who you may know as Superman from the DC movies, or sadly not anymore. He plays a guy called August Walker, who is a bit of a double agent, really. Yeah, he sort of betrays them and ends up working for Solomon Lane, which obviously is a bad thing. And I love his rivalry with Ethan. There's definitely a lot of tension there, because Ethan doesn't want him on the mission, and he kind of knows that Walker gives off this bad vibe, and I think he kind of preconcedes that Walker will betray him, and I think he has that kind of in the back of his mind from the beginning. Yeah, it wasn't really too much of a surprise to know that Walker was going to betray the group, and I think that was made pretty obvious from the beginning, so perhaps they could have adjusted that. Ving Rhames returns as Luther. He's still great, giving it his all. He's got that charm. He's definitely providing a lot of light relief. And I love his moments with Julia in this film. Yeah, Julia comes back, Ethan's ex-wife, who he had to divorce to keep her safe. And now she's with somebody else who is actually quite a nice guy. And she's working in Kashmir. Conveniently, she's working in Kashmir, the same place where they go to stop Solomon Lane and Walker. It was a bit convenient how she was there, but it was still quite nice to see her, and it was very nostalgic, and obviously it put some kind of closure to their sort of story, I would say. Because obviously Mission Impossible 3 was a deviation in the sense that Ethan got married and tried to settle down, and then in number 4, it was revealed that Jeremy Renner's character was assigned to protect her, but he failed, and then Ethan discovered that she was actually safe, so he was happy. Rebecca Ferguson comes back in this film as Ilsa. I didn't think she was as necessary to this film as she was in the previous one. However, I like her character, although I do feel like they're trying to steer her to be Ethan's love interest, and I don't know if that's entirely necessary. Yeah, I did feel like she was kind of forced into the movie, that whole plot about her going to kill Solomon Lane. It just seemed a little bit shoehorned in there. But nevertheless, I think she's charming, and I think her performance is better in the previous film because the fifth film surrounds her a lot more. However, she is good, and it is nice to see her back. Simon Pegg is good as Benji, doesn't get quite as much to do, and quite as much comedy as the previous movies. However, Benji gets to wear a mask, which is what he's been wanting to do ever since the fourth movie, so I'm really glad they finally honoured his request. Vanessa Kirby is worth mentioning as well. She plays a character called the White Widow, who wants Solomon Lane, and she's the one who Ethan pretends to be John Lark for, and he offers to trade Solomon Lane for the plutonium. And I think Vanessa Kirby is very, attractive. She definitely adds the kind of sex appeal of the film, and certainly, is kind of the most Bond girl-like of the women in this film. And she kicks ass, and she's pretty good. The scene where Ethan meets Vanessa Kirby in the club reminded me a little bit of Skyfall. The way that the cinematography was lit, and the colours, the use of colours in this film are very vibrant, and they've definitely drawn some inspiration from Skyfall. But I thought the lighting and the cinematography again was fantastic, and the scene in the club was really well lit. Angela Bassett also has a small role as well. She is like the head of the CIA. I would have liked to see her do a bit more, but I quite enjoyed her. And as for Alec Baldwin, he's not in the movie that much. He's not in it as much as Rogue Nation. Given how Alec Baldwin has behaved in recent years, maybe that's not such a bad thing for some people. I thought it was kind of a shame that they killed him off. It seemed like a bit of a waste. I don't know what it really added to the story. For me, it didn't have any emotional impact, and I would have liked them to kind of build up to that a bit more, maybe establish more of a friendship or relationship with him and Ethan, and his death was a little bit weightless, if I'm going to be honest. But like I said, this film is an absolute thrill ride. The action is spectacular. It's epic. It is a bit overlong, but I do think that it is very entertaining. And Solomon Lane, yes, the return of Solomon Lane. He looks a bit different. He looks a bit more rugged. I mean, he's been in prison for 2 years, and they tried to extract him, and then it turns out him and the apostles are at work once more, trying to, detonate the world once again. So the plot is very by the numbers in terms of espionage, spy thriller. It is a typical story of what you would expect for this kind of thing, but I can't deny I was very entertained by this film. And as for Solomon Lane, maybe we'll see him again. His fate is kind of left, open by the end of the film. They don't kill him off in this film, and I thought they did initially because I hadn't seen this film for quite a number of years, but no, the door is left open, so I'm convinced now that he's going to appear in Dead Reckoning Part 1. I also feel like the opening scene is a little bit too long when they go to get the plutonium and then Ethan kind of loses it, and then they have to trick that guy in the hospital into all of that. So, overall, Mission Impossible Fallout, this is a good installment, and I think it's action-packed, it's great fun. It's easy to watch. It's got some nice bittersweet moments. There's also some scenes where Ethan has like visions of Julia. He has visions of his marrying his wife, and then, well, I guess a nightmare of Solomon Lane being there as well. I don't quite know what those scenes really added to the story. I guess it was just to prelude Julia coming back, or the fact that it was going to prelude the fact that Walker would threaten Ethan with, you know, killing his ex-wife. But nevertheless, all my flaws aside, I am going to rate Mission Impossible Fallout an 8 out of 10. So that's my review of Mission Impossible Fallout. Yeah, solid entry to the series. Good job. But I think it is getting to the point now where Mission Impossible does need to wrap up. And I think Cruise is showing his age. And I think Cruise has realised that, you know, being in his 60s now, there's only so much he can do. And I think that, you know, he's been involved with the series for over 30 years. Or I think almost 30 years. So, really, I respect the guy a lot, but I'm quite glad that we're going to get to the beginning of the end in the next review, which will be Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And obviously Part 2 will release next year. So yes, thank you very much all for watching this review. What do you think of it? Please comment down below, let me know. Hit the like and subscribe button for more content in the future. And until next time, I'm Pajak's Perspective. See ya. Bye for now.